जय रातमा तवा कुंज बिहारी जय रातमा तवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा Yamunadira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Shri Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Hare Krishna everyone, good morning. Thank you for coming to the Bhagavatam Katha. Today we are going to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, Talks between Narada and King Prachinabarhi, verse number 49. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nastapresu Apatresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. So the first 49. Ashtriya Tarbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Astirya Tarbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Shtapto Brahat Vadanmani Karma Navaisit Yatparam.
Stapto Prihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisit Param.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Ashtirya Darbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Astirya Tarpai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Shtapto Brahat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Stapto Brihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya. Astirya Tarpai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Ashtirya Darbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Stapto Brihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Stapto Brahat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Astirya Darbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Astirya Darbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Stapto Brihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Shtapto Brihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Ashtirya Darbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Ashtirya Darbai Prak Akrai Kartsnyena Ksiti Mandalam.
Stapto Brihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Stapto Brihat Vadanmani Karma Navaisi Yatparam.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya.
Tat Karma Haritosham Yat Savitya Tanmatirjaya. Ashtirya, having covered Darbai by Kusha grass, Prak Akrai with the points facing east, Kartsnyena all together, Ksiti Mandalam, the surface of the world, Shtaptaha, proud upstart, Brahat, great, Vadat, by killing, Mani, thinking yourself very important, Karma, activity, Na avaishi, you do not know, Yat, which, Param, supreme, Tat,
that,
that. Karma,
karma,
activity. Haritosham, satisfying the Supreme Lord.
Satisfying the Supreme Lord.
Yat, which. Sa, that. Vidya, education. Tat, unto the Lord. Mati, consciousness. Jaya, by which. Translation and purport given by Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. My dear King, the entire world is covered with the sharp points of kusha grass, and on the strength of this you have become proud, because you have killed various types of animals in sacrifices. Because of your foolishness, you do not know that devotional service is the only way one can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot understand this fact. Your only activities should be those that can please the Personality of Godhead. Our education should be such that we can become elevated to Krishna consciousness. Purport. In this verse, the great sage Narada Muni directly insults the king because he has engaged in performing sacrifices that entail the killing of a great number of animals. The king was thinking that he was great for having performed so many sacrifices, but the great sage Narada directly chastises him, informing him that his animal killing only leads to his being puffed up with false prestige. Actually, anything that is done which does not lead to Krishna consciousness is a sinful activity. And any education that does not lead one to understand Krishna is false education. If Krishna consciousness is missing, one is simply engaged in false activities and false educational pursuits. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananchala Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Nama Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Putale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sakana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvedam Savadutam Parijana Saidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavana Sude Devi Vrinavami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ye Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Kadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So translation again. My dear King, the entire world is covered with sharp points of kusha grass, and on the strength of this you have become proud because you have killed various types of animals in sacrifices. Because of your foolishness, you do not know that devotional service is the only way one can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot understand this fact. Your only activities should be those that can please the Personality of Godhead. Our education should be such that we can become elevated to Krishna consciousness. So we have here again a verse which we find very, very often in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, after every section, the Bhagavatam points out the superiority of devotional service or activities that pleases the Lord. And it points us out the futility of all other activities, of all other sacrifices that do not intend to please the Lord. So this is a theme that Srimad Bhagavatam again and again brings up, and we have here again a verse where it shows the superiority of devotional service. And in another Bhagavatam Katha, I once tried to list with the stories of the different devotees and the kings, how the Srimad Bhagavatam is showing that bhakti is the superior to all other ritualistic or karma kanda and jnana kanda activities. We have, for example, the Bhagavatam shows that karma and jnana are not complete without bhakti. We see many kings, stories of kings, like here Prachina Barhi, they were performing ritualistic activities but did not attain perfection. Only when devotional service was added, then they attained perfection. Like Priyavrata, he had engaged seemingly in karma kanda activities, but because he related it or because he made it for the satisfaction of Krishna, he became perfect. Also similarly with jnana kanda, we can also find similar examples like the 4 Kumaras or the Sukadeva Goswami, who were previously jnanis, but only with the knowledge of devotional service they attained perfection. We see also that the Srimad Bhagavatam explains to us how bhakti is independent of karma and jnana. That means that you don't necessarily have to perform karma and jnana, and only by bhakti you can attain perfection. One example is Ajamil. He was engaged in sinful activities, but just because he made one devotional activity, chanting the holy name, he got afterwards perfection. Bhagavatam also shows that there is no loss in bhakti, in devotional service. In this example, we can see Bharat Maharaj. He has to take birth again as a deer, but there was no loss in his devotional credits. He could continue with his devotional service. And we also see that Bhagavatam explains that bhakti, everyone can perform bhakti. There is no discrimination who can perform bhakti. It's not that only brahmanas can perform bhakti. Then Bhagavatam shows that demons like Vritrasura could perform devotional service. Children like Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj could perform devotional service. And even women like Devahuti could perform devotional service. So the Bhagavatam's theme is to show the superiority of devotional service. And I will not repeat that lecture again, but I thought maybe we could discuss on this ritualistic part of activities of karma kanda. What does it mean? And where do we see ritualistic tendencies and behaviors? And do we also see in our activities and our devotional lives ritualistic behaviors? Here, Narada Muni points out the world is covered with sharp points of kusha grass. And on the strength of this, you have become proud. Kusha grass, or in Sanskrit darpa, this is one type of grass that is being used for sacrifices. This is one of the main ingredients, like also other ingredients like milk and ghee. Kusha grass is one of the ingredients that we use for sacrificial performances. I don't know how it is in the north, but in the south, they take this dry kusha grass and they make kind of a schlaufe, a loop, and where you can put your fingers through. And those people who donated a sacrifice, or who paid the sacrifice, they usually wear this kusha grass on their fingers, and it shows that they are the doer of this sacrifice. So as here, the kusha grass is indicating that many sacrifices has been done. So this kusha grass is a symbol actually of sacrifices, but it has become a symbol of pride. But this pride is misled because the sacrifices were not performed for pleasing the Lord, which Narada Muni tells us as haritosham, but they are done to pleasing our senses. Because Krishna, he is the beneficiary of sacrifices. Yaknartat karma nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Krishna says to Arjuna that you have to perform your works for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. All other works, they lead to bondage. Because Krishna, he's Yagneshwar. He's the master or the Ishvara of all yagyas, all sacrifices. So every sacrifice is meant for his satisfaction. But when we miss that intention, sacrifices become a symbol of prestige, as prosperity, where you can show off to the other people that you are performing many sacrifices. In Sri Lanka, they have, in the villages, we have very, very small temples. Some temples are really only for the murtis, maybe like not even a 1 square meter of size of the temples. Are very small shrines, and you can find them at every corner of the streets, and they are just there. Actually, when you were traveling, you would go there, pay some obeisances, worship a little bit for the safety of the journey, and you will travel on. So every village would have such small temples. But what happened is the people of this land, they went abroad due to the war, and they could accumulate some wealth, and they started to enlarge these temples. They started to make this temple bigger, building bigger temples with this. And they started to hold festivals. And these festivals, they would sometimes be 3 days festivals, 10 days, 20 days, like really long festivals. And on every day, one family of the village would organize that day of the festivals. This would mean giving food, preparing the decorations with the flowers, etc., inviting musicians, and in this way, organize these festivals. But what happens is, these types of festivals, they become a festival of competition. The question is then, who has built the largest temple? From these small sizes, who has made the most opulent buildings for the temples? And who is inviting the most skilled musicians? Who is serving the most amount of food? And who is bringing the most amount of flowers? So they have become a symbol of competition. Like here, Parchina Barhi, he is proud of his sacrifices. Similarly, it also happens there. And when you ask them, what is the purpose? Why are you doing this? We will get the usual answer: we want good health, good wealth, good family, good education, safety, etc. But it's not really that. The more deeper is, our village has the best and most famous festivals. So it becomes a prestige. Ritualistic activities or sacrifices, they become a prestigious activities. They become a ritual, a tradition, where we forget the real purpose, why we are doing festivals, why we are building temples, and they just become a show-off. I think in the Western world, one example of ritualistic activities or tradition, I would say, is Christmas. I think Christmas is the appearance day of Lord Jesus, and this day is meant for remembering his teachings. But with time, that purpose of remembering his teachings have become more forgotten, and the question is now just how to celebrate Christmas more opulently, with more presents, more gifts, meeting families. But I asked some devotees, if they met their families, and usually the response was, out of obligation they are meeting their families. So this aspect of Christmas is also losing or going to vanish. And it's a big business opportunity for shops and lots of sinful activities, meat eating and drinking. So I think it's for modern Western world, what happens with King Prachina Barhi, we can compare to Christmas. where the real intention is lost. And regarding meat eating, here Narada Muni criticizes King Prachinabar. He is saying, on the strength of this you have become proud because you have killed various types of animals in sacrifices. It's interesting that the king becomes proud of having killed many animals. Because usually, why are animals sacrificed in a fire sacrifice? Why is that made? The usual intention was to test the powers of the mantras. That was usually the original intentions, why to sacrifice animals, and to test these mantras, and afterwards also giving those animals a human body where they can develop Krishna consciousness. But the sacrifices are not meant for replacing slaughterhouses. But what happens over the years, this intention, it gets twisted more and more, right? So with initially we have the intention of testing the mantras, but then because we want to taste or satisfy our tongues, we twist that intention and say sacrifices have to be performed. This is what the Vedas say, so we have to kill animals. Just a slight twitch of the purpose, and already you have not bona fide instructions from the Vedas. And usually we see also in India, many places, and also Kali worshippers, they feel obliged to sacrifice animals. They feel, oh, we have a bad time is coming, so we have to cut the head of a sheep or a goat. And more twisting of these principles is when we say animals, they don't have souls. So, I mean, what is the point of giving them a human birth? Animals anyways don't have a soul. We can just eat it. This is pure human satisfaction. I think all religions who promote or who allow eating of meat have this principle or this philosophy that animals don't have souls. We can see how we start to dehumanize or de-soulize, it's not a word, but we try to remove the soul aspect from the animals. And the next point is, when we remove God, even God out of the picture, we say there is no God. So we legitimate any killing of animals, saying humans have always eaten meat for thousands of years. This is a natural thing. This is for our health, and that is the last layer of removal of these principles. And then we have today's society where we just slaughter, slaughter, and slaughter. And it's interesting how over the time we justify with the performance of sacrifices, how we justify eatings of animals, just to satisfy our tongue. And we become proud. This is interesting. I don't know, you can tell me more. On Christmas Day, I think some families, they are proud if they have slaughtered the biggest pig or cow. I think this is a usual, with this you can show we have served a great meal to the family. But this is just, we want to show mercy, but we are just becoming cruel. And every year, I found it interesting, 350 million tons of meat is being eaten every year. And I don't know if you want to hear the numbers of animals slaughtered every day. I don't want to spoil your breakfast, but maybe you know the numbers. Every day, 900, it's a rough estimate, I think probably the numbers vary, 900,000 cows every day slaughtered, 1.4 million goats, 1.7 million sheep, 3.8 million pigs, and 202 million chicken, and hundreds of millions of fishes every day. Yeah. this is the cruelty of Kali Yuga. And just on the part of the justification, there is one famous psychologist. He's very famous, and he teaches how to be merciful, how human beings should become more and more merciful and doing good to others. We have to become good human beings and not repeat the atrocities that have occurred in the wars before, in world wars and all the other wars. And he's preaching this, how we have to become more merciful. But he himself has a carnivorous diet. He himself eats only meat. That is his diet. And I find it so ironical. He promotes so much mercy for human beings, and then is wondering why human beings cannot be merciful and live together in harmony with others, but he himself eats only meat. And I thought, wow, this is the irony we have achieved today, and he is very famous, and everyone listens to him. On the point of kusha grass, I explained that it is a symbol for sacrifices, and if you have Narada Muni seeing lots of kusha grasses in the town, in the kingdom, he deduces from that many sacrifices have been done, so this land is very prosperous. And for this I was thinking, modern example would be Srila Prabhupada pointing at the skyline, at the skyscrapers, and showing how skyscrapers have become the symbol of modern civilization just for enjoying sex life. And I think this is the modern example that Prabhupada gives, equivalent to the kusha grass. And I think nowadays, 50 years later, kusha grass would be equivalent to the number of followers and subscribers we have. It's interesting that no-name people in this world, just because they have a high number of followers, they attain high statuses in the society without achieving anything meaningful. So this is happening to King Prachinabarhi also. His activities, sacrifices, he's performing them, becomes a high status king, but they have no meaningful results because he's not doing them for the satisfaction of Krishna. So enough spoken about other people. Let's see what about us. I was thinking, so we see how sacrifice, the initial intention of sacrifice being satisfying the Lord, we remove the satisfaction of the Lord aspect, and it becomes more and more of a ritual, of a tradition. And I wanted to discuss with you what ritualistic behaviors or tendencies do you see in your life, in your devotional activities. And while you think on this question, just give you two examples where we see that even when we perform seemingly devotional activities, they can be ritualistic. One thing is, we see in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, where the Gopas and Krishna and Balaram, they become hungry. So Krishna tells the Gopas, go to the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, they are meant to offer everything to Lord Vishnu. So go to them and ask for some food. And tell them Krishna and Balaram have sent you, so they will definitely give you. So the Gopas go to the Brahmanas. They are performing many big fire sacrifices, usually meant to satisfy Lord Vishnu. But when the Gopas came and asked, the Brahmana said, no, who are you? You are just some Vaishya boys, small boys. You don't know for what sacrifices are meant for, so please go away, we won't give you any food. And this is the irony, like Krishna is there, you know, you can just achieve your perfection of your sacrifice just by giving that you have prepared to Lord Krishna, but they didn't. So when Krishna sends the Gopas then to the wives of the Brahmanas, they are very happy to hear that Krishna wants some food. And the wives, they fill up these pots with all the delicious preparations and give to Krishna, and the Gopas with Krishna together, they enjoyingly eat this food. And this is one example where one is performing seemingly devotional activities, but where we have forgotten that we have to satisfy Krishna. Another example is when Krishna, he departs from Hastinapur and goes to Dwarka, and while he was departing Hastinapura, many Brahmanas there were chanting Vedic hymns, Vedic mantras. But the wives of these Brahmanas, the ladies, they went on the rooftop of the buildings and they were very devotionally glorifying the activities of Lord Krishna. And Sukadeva Goswami says that more than the Vedic mantras, the talks of the ladies affectionately describing Krishna's activities was more pleasing to Krishna. And here again, I think this is an interesting example. We might sing, you might read all these verses and shlokas, but when we are not reading them with the intention to please Krishna, for Krishna they are just some naked words without any substance. So these are just some examples, and now back to the questions. So what ritualistic behaviors or tendencies do you see in your devotional activities where you perform things every day regularly, but where you forget that the aim of that activity is actually to please Krishna? Where we then just start to perform these activities as a ritual.
As you were mentioning the stories of the Brahmanas sending away Krishna when they stand in front of them, I was thinking of our chapa actually, because Krishna appears right here and thank you. Yeah, when we're chanting, actually Krishna appears right in front of us, but our mind is sending Krishna away with our thoughts. So actually we're doing this also. And with the deities, sometimes we're looking at the deities, but we're speaking about more important things than about Krishna. And yeah, that's actually very sad that we are doing this also.
Yeah, thank you very much. So all our sadhanas, they can become ritualistic, as you said, chanting the holy name. Where we just every day we start to chant the 16 rounds and then we start to fall asleep, or all the other thoughts were coming. But I was thinking also, sometimes we think of our mind wanders far away, where we think of other activities that has not to do with devotional service, but sometimes our mind wanders even to the other services that we have to do throughout the days. And this might seem like devotional activities. I might think, oh, I have to wash the pots, I have to clean this, I have to prepare I don't know what. But at the moment we forget then that the chanting, of the intention of the chanting is focusing on the holy name and to ask Krishna and Guru for his mercy that we can become his servants. I think this is an easy trap that we can have. We might see, okay, I am now chanting and my thoughts are on devotional services, but we forgot to focus and give full attention to the holy name. This is a usual trap where we end up. I don't know if you have experienced this, but I do, that sometimes when I sing songs, of Vaishnava songs, it happens I start with the song, and then at the end of the song, I just start to realize, what? I have sung already all these verses? Have you experienced this? At the end of the song, our mind comes back, and the interesting thing is, our senses, our mouth is so trained that it can automatically sing all the verses very nicely, but our mind is somewhere else, and we come back and think, what? I just finished the song. Yeah, with the darshan, seeing the Lordship, it's a very nice example. Acha Vigraha, Prabhupada says, this is Krishna himself, but we don't behave in this temple room as Krishna was standing there, right? We just neglect him and be more impersonal to him in this way, and neglect that he's standing there to give his mercy. Other thing which I experienced in my life during kirtans, I thought it is a nice, good thing. I trained to play the instruments such in a very rhythmic way, very accurately, that at one point I could start to figure out when someone was playing just a little bit off, just a tiny bit. My mind was trained to such an extent. Just when someone was playing a little bit off, my mind would already say someone is playing wrong, you know. And initially, I trained for this because I thought if I can train my mind with the rhythm, my mind will become more and more focused. And this happened. My mind became more and more focused. But what happened is that with more and more training, my mind became more and more focused on the rhythm instead of the holy name, and I could just start to be annoyed by everyone who just played the kartas a little bit off. And after some time, I thought myself, no, I have to discard this behavior, where I have to focus on the holy name. If someone is playing a little bit off, this is not a problem. The focus is in satisfying the Lord, in satisfying the holy name. So if someone is capable of just playing that, this should be fine, and my mind should be just focused on Krishna. This is a ritualistic tendency which I have observed in my life, and we can go on with these examples. I will just give another example also. When we start to adapt these ritualistic tendencies, where we don't ask ourselves if the main intention is to please Krishna, then what happens is also that we get not ready for changes. I think Keshav Maharaj says one dangerous word that we can say or phrase is that we have always done it in this way. That is kind of right, he says this, right? So he says, this is a very dangerous phrase when we say we have always done it in this way, therefore we will continue doing this in this way. Because we have to always ask ourselves if our services, activities are in line with the Shastras and with Guru, and are they according to time, place and circumstances. And we have to be able to adapt according to these situations. Because otherwise, we will become static and don't continue and make development in devotional life. And I think examples like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he was the main power behind printing books, using the printing press, using the printing capabilities to produce the teachings of the Lord to a mass population. Before him, no one was doing that. And he was the first person to bring this this technology to produce and distribute this wisdom to a mass population. And why I'm bringing this example is because later Prabhupada, he was not static in his activities also. He always continually asked himself how I can adapt my preachings, everything, so that it is relevant for the society. So particularly after his time in Jhansi, where he went back to Vrindavan and Delhi, where he was traveling between there, he was producing some magazines for his god brothers, I think Bhaktisarang Goswami and Keshava Maharaj, for these two. But what happened is that these two god brothers, they didn't have revolutionary ideas how to publish these magazines. They were stuck into things that they were always doing in the Gaudiya Math. They were just continuing the activities they were doing at that time and continuing. While Prabhupada, he had some vision to change the types of magazines they were publishing. He wanted to bring colorful paintings into the magazines. He was looking at other magazines of India, like the Illustrated Weekly, and American magazines like the Times and Life. And he was seeing, okay, maybe we can change our magazines to this quality and it will be more attractive to the mass people. But his idea was not supported by these god brothers because they were caught up in this ritualistic tendency where they thought we have always done it in this way, so why should we change this? This will not have any improvement on our preaching. So this is just one example I want to give where we have to see and ask ourselves always if the things which we are doing now, are they pleasing for Krishna, are they in line with Shastras, and according to time, place and circumstances, are we not behind 30 years and doing things that were applicable 30 years back but currently not? Should we not change something and propagate Krishna consciousness in this way, in the more applicable for these times? There's also another point Narada Muni mentions here, that our education should be such that we can be elevated to Krishna consciousness, but I will not go on this topic now because the time is already up and I don't want to take your breakfast time, so maybe we can discuss it at another time. So thank you for your listening and welcome you if you have any comments, any thoughts or questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I liked your reference to Christmas and how everything becomes like a ritual activity. And I remember one quote from Amarendra Prabhu. He always says, when spiritual activities are not done with the right spirit, they become rituals. So like rituals added spiritual, then it's spiritual, and without the spirit it's just a ritual. So we always have to know why we are doing and with which intention. And you mentioned also that sometimes we have things done 30 years ago and we're still doing the same, maybe we should do it in another way. And I think there can be also a danger that we try to change things according to our own understanding. And as an example, there's some people say we should not distribute books anymore and this is outdated and people feel disturbed and we should find new ways of preaching, like doing yoga and so many things. And so, but we know that this is the heart of Srila Prabhupada, to reach the people with the transcendental book distribution. And maybe you can say something in this direction, how we can avoid to making new things and think we are very intelligent, but maybe we are displeasing our previous acharyas.
The thing is always, as I said, every activities we do, we have to ask the question, what is the intention behind? The intention should be to please Krishna and Guru. So the things which I said with 30 years ago, this was not mentioning like for book distribution. These were things like maybe we have a certain, maybe 30 years ago there were more devotees in the temple and there were more services could be done. And 30 years later, only few bhaktas are in the temple and the same amount of activities should be still covered, right? But then at these times we have to ask again, where is our focus? And the focus was always in preaching, propagating the holy name. And then where this is the core, all the other activities we should be able to reduce, whether the focus becomes back to this main core of our movement. So what I meant with adapt is that when we see the times have changed in the temple with the number of devotees, we should ask ourselves, maybe are there services that we can, where we can prioritize, other services not, and maybe we can invite community members in a way that they can cover up these services. Where our mentality should not be, okay, temple devotees, they have to fulfill all these services because 30 years ago they were doing this, but our thinking should be, this is the situation, how we can engage those devotees who live outside in these services, where the temple devotees, for example, can focus on the core principle of Krishna consciousness in propagating the Krishna consciousness message. This makes sense. Yeah. I mean, those who say no book distribution, this is outdated, they twisting again what I said with the principles. Our principle is always propagating the message of Krishna outside. This is the core principle, propagating the holy name. And if we start to touch this core principle, then we can say we are ritualistic, we are going in a wrong way where we start to change things. You know. But the other things make sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Just wanted to point out there's some danger.
Yeah, definitely. You have to use, Prabhupada says, you have to use your intelligence and common sense. This means we have to be expert, we have to have studied all his books and be expert in his teachings so that we can figure out what are the principles which we have to hold on, which we have to continue, where we have to prioritize, and which other things we have to adapt to the situation. Yeah, the danger is always there. As we said, like with the animal sacrifice, it was testing for the powers of the mantras, and how they were twisted over time is just, just amazing, right? How they twisted it and saying, okay, sacrifice has to be done, and we can only please the demigods by killing animals. This was never the intention. Just a small twitch, just to satisfy our senses.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, and thank you so much for your lecture. It was very nice. Actually, I wanted to ask about this statement that every education should bring us to Krishna, but we can leave this topic for later, as you mentioned. And I was thinking about this statement from Prabhupada that skyscrapers are like symbols of, how do you call it, like
modern civilization, yeah, or sex life. Yeah.
Yes. And I didn't understand it, but then I had this thought that actually in German it's like Fortpflanzung, and I was thinking if the like mental Fortpflanzung is also in this category, or is it like a completely different thing that Srila Prabhupada is referring to?
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's similar, like where we want to get attraction and attention to ourselves, so the subtle form of sexual desires. This means when we, with our skyscrapers and modern civilization, we are so showing that we are prosperous, we are wealthy, right? And usually in the animal kingdom, the people who are more prosperous, the most, they will be able to propagate their dynasties. Right? So similarly, in this modern day, those who are wealthy, who can show it. In Prabhupada's time, he never saw skyscrapers in India. So for him, when he flew first time to San Francisco and he saw the skyline, this was a big scene for him. He never saw that before. To New York, he arrived by ship. So I don't know what his thoughts were there. But to San Francisco, where he arrived by plane, where he first saw this, said it looked like more small matchboxes. And so this is just an extended art of showing that you are wealthy and prosperous. Yeah, and for the fourth education, the thing what I wanted to tell is, Lord Chaitanya asked Ramananda Roy, what is the best education? Ramananda Roy says the best education is that education that leads you to Krishna consciousness. That's that simple. All the other education that don't lead to that are not useful. But the question which I wanted to discuss with you later was, but somehow we have to have an education in this world, right? We don't have gurukulas here, where we can go and from childhood study transcendental spiritual knowledge, but at the same time we have to have some education if we want to live in this world. So what shall we do? And there I just wanted to point out two things. One thing that Krishna says to Arjuna, or actually I wanted to show out two types of renunciation, where Krishna says, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obliged is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. This is just an amazing statement, because Arjuna, he wanted to escape from his duties going to the forest. And Krishna says, this is one type of renunciation, but this is a lower type of renunciation. The better type of renunciation is when you come back and fight for me. The difference is, before he wanted to just fight for himself, this was for his enjoyment. Then he wanted to renounce, go to the forest. This was a lower type of renunciation, what the Mayavadis do, or the other jnanis, where they don't have anything to do with material activities. But the devotional renunciation, or the highest renunciation, is to engage everything in Krishna's service. So Krishna invites Arjuna back to fight for him. And where we see Rupa Goswami giving the Yukta Vairagya verse, where he says, everything that you bring in contact with Krishna, Krishna Sambandha, that is the perfect renunciation. Maybe I can read that verse. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. So another amazing verse, Rupa Goswami says that the best renunciation is to engage everything in Krishna. And this means also with our education. First, when we just learn this education, also the mundane education, this is useless. But an expert devotee, he knows how to connect that education with Krishna. And then it becomes complete, perfect education. Prabhupada, because everything in this world is connected to Krishna, and Prabhupada always says, people ask me, can you show me God? And he says, yes, very easily. Drink water, and you can taste Krishna. Look at the sun, you can see Krishna. And the Srimad Bhagavatam with the Virat Rupa, it always shows how this world is connected to Krishna, or with the universal form, or all these examples that Krishna gives and the Srimad Bhagavatam gives with the Virat Rupa shows how everything is connected with Krishna. Nothing is unconnected with him or disconnected. So everything we can somehow connect with Krishna, and it's also in our education. You want to hear an example how I'll connect one thing with my education with Krishna, or do you want to go to it? Manu is hungry.
You can leave also.
I studied robotics, and then we had one subject, mechanics. Mechanics is the law, the teachings of forces and movements of bodies. Like the Newton's law is a fundamental law of mechanics. And I thought usually I can never connect anything with my education to Krishna. Usually biology or something like this, you can connect with Krishna, with life and soul and how things emanate. But then my professor, he explained how when the embryo is growing inside the womb, how the Fruchtblase, how that is designed in such a way in the womb of the mother that it does not break during the pregnancy. This Fruchtblase, this is called the amniotic sac, so I don't know how it's called, but the Fruchtblase in which the embryo grows. If it does get damaged, it will break down and the baby is in danger. And he explained me that how the womb is designed such that the mechanical forces or the tension on this bubble is always constant and always preserved, that the bubble doesn't start to explode. And in this way I start to realize how Krishna, like even with mechanics, we can see how Krishna has arranged everything in this world that we can function and life can grow. And then I started to know, okay, I don't have to study biology, even with mechanics, I can connect things with Krishna. So yeah, it's a small example. Any other thoughts, things? Okay, then we conclude. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Rasashraya Rama Dasa.
Gut, wir haben schon Linie, Gedanken, Wunsch.
Ja, ich denke, zweite Woche. Ich hatte da eine Hand drin. Ja. Wahrscheinlich. Ich habe echt das. Das dauert pro Prabhupada das ist gekommen, ich habe es hier schon gesehen. Der Grund ist, es ist westlich bzw. ägyptisch. In Ägypten haben wir den Obelisken. Das ist schon 18 Uhr. Das kommt von den Königen, das ist der Pharao. Die haben das Erbrecht gehabt, zum Beispiel über jede Frau, wenn sie verheiratet hat. Und es ist ein Fallensymbol. Zwischen 18 Uhr. Und das kommt aus dem Obeliskus. Das ist Ja, voll.